What is your latest "what the frick is wrong with people" moment? Spoke to one of my newer employees regarding issues with her work. That evening I received an email from her father asking to meet with me because his 23-year-old daughter came home upset. I'm not kidding. I mentioned a prof's teaching style I didn't care for to my mother. She sent him an email, and he brought it up with me later. Single most embarrassing point of my academic career. I work at a pet store. This lady came in with her son who couldn't have been older than 5 or so. She asked if I could help them with a ball python. When I took it out, she was really excited to hold it and immediately kept telling her son how they were going to convince his dad to let them get it. Her son was clearly afraid of the snake, and she kept trying to get him to hold it. He kept telling her he was afraid that it will bite him. She tried to tell him that snakes don't bite and turned to me wanting me to tell him the same thing. I told the boy while snakes can bite, ours are quite friendly and won't want to bite you if you hold them gently. His mom was furious that I wouldn't tell this kid that snakes can't bite. I tried to tell her why I can't lie, but she said it was unacceptable and now I have scared her son for life. I suggested him hold a bearded dragon and he loved it. I think he left happier than she did. Sounds like he was used to bearded dragons. 2 college students were standing in the middle of a busy road this morning, talking to each other. They were nearly hit by every car and didn't stop their conversation. This just happened at a somewhat nearby school to me. The school's soccer team duct taped an autistic student that wanted to play soccer to the football goal post. They all left the field and he was found 15 minutes later. Seriously, what the frick is wrong with people? Time to end the soccer season permanently for that team. The San Francisco 49ers fans that nearly beat a guy to death in the bathroom because he allegedly tapped on his shoulder to tell him the stall in front of him was open. They don't deserve to ever see the light of day again. Yesterday, lady cut in front of me at the grocery store. I said, "Excuse me, there's a line." She replied with, "I'm pregnant, you understand." What? Then the 2 of you need to get to the back of the fricking line. Edit. Thanks for the gold, mysterious friend. I was recently on a megabus from DC to NY, and a family with several young children was trying to find the last untaken seats. There was clearly a seat open, but when they asked the girl, she was like, "Sorry, I want to leave this seat open so I can sleep." The family was like, "Oh no, that's not how it works." They had to go get the bus driver and bring him to the back. The lady said the same thing to the bus driver, and the bus driver was like, "Oh no, that's not how this works." So the kid ended up sitting next to this girl. How did she think this was going to slide? I was out for a motorcycle ride yesterday. I stopped at a spot off the main road to stretch my legs a bit. Noticed in the bushes that there were bags and bags of garbage all dumped in one spot. Not like a McDonald's bag that someone casually threw out their window. More like someone loaded up with what could possibly be months worth of household garbage and dumped it in the woods. People like that, frick them. Went hiking this weekend in Rocky Mountain National Park. A lot of things about people there angered me. The list includes feeding wildlife cheese puffs, walking on the tundra that multiple signs clearly say to keep off, initials carved into aspen trees, and stopping their cars in the middle of the road on the peak of a mountain. This kind of thing makes me so angry. I once saw a guy offer an ostrich a lit cigarette at a zoo after already feeding it chips, so the ostrich obviously thought the cigarette was food too. I was so appalled that anybody could imagine that was acceptable behavior. I just don't understand how anybody could do anything like injure animals, damage nature, litter, etc. I saw someone post an article on Facebook about how Ebola is Obama's revenge against white people for slavery, and all of these people commenting, "OMG, it makes sense." Last Saturday, I was walking along a vacant sidewalk when I was approached by a middle-aged couple. They were in jogging suits and walking considerably faster than I, so I moved onto the grass to give them space. When they got closer, the woman started yelling at me that I wasn't far enough out of the way. I apologized, only to be intentionally clipped by the man following her and landing on my back. I got back up and laughed it off, only to hear the man yelling, "You're not the only one in this city, butthole." At that point I was pretty amazed at how somebody can be that angry at someone they don't know. I hadn't said anything to them to start. So I live near a family that's just horrible. They lock their young son outside their house because he's annoying as frick and they are horrible parents. I am walking outside. He's in their open garage. He has a bottle in his hands. I get closer. He's about to spray weed killer in his mouth. He does it before I rush in. I pound the door with the kid under my arm. The mom gives me a WTF look and I scream about her kid eating poison. She rushes to the car and they drive off. Last week, a man in the car in front of me threw a full-sized Pringles can out of his window and almost hit my car. First of all, how lazy do you have to be to freaking litter? Second of all, why would you be eating a full-sized can of Pringles while driving? One pop man. How people actually spend thousands of dollars and get all territorial and Second Life. Apparently, some people take this crap seriously. Not latest, but this is when I first experienced how society is. I was 10-11 years old and I had just come home after playing soccer with a kid from our neighborhood. Before I can walk inside the door, my grandma stopped me and told me that I have to take a shower and do a small puja before walking in because the kid I was playing with was son of the family who makes living by cleaning houses. My grandma was treating them as untouchables. Made me realize how illogical she was. A woman changed her baby on the table of the busy restaurant work in. Seriously, what the frick? People eating their lunch don't want to see your crappy naked child. I've had to get managers explain to customers that changing a dirty diaper in the middle of a restaurant is unsanitary way more times than I should have too. I am so glad I no longer wait tables. A couple of months ago when I stopped two guys, one early 20s, the other closer to 50, dragging an 18-year-old girl into a taxi while she tried to pull away from them. When I confronted them, I was beaten pretty hard and then pushed in front of a car. No broken bones, but it was doing about 25 miles per hour and the road rash sucked, but it drew enough of a crowd that she got away. Frick those two guys and the taxi driver that seemed to think it was acceptable. I still have nerve damage in my left hand from that fricking car. At least you stopped them. Maybe your act will encourage more bystanders to step up. Every time I see a driver signal to change lanes and the guy 5 car lengths behind him speeds way the frick up to stop him from moving over. If you're reading this, and you do that, frick you. This literally happened to me less than an hour ago. I was at Walmart with my friend, and he needed to buy some ham. It was a super center. Yes, I know buying produce meat at Walmart was my first mistake, but it's the closest convenience store. We go up to the counter, and the lady is obviously too busy putting rotisserie chickens in plastic containers to acknowledge us. So I say, "Excuse me," not rudely, just to get her attention. She looks up like I just called her a thundercunt or something, and comes over all irritated. I say, "Can we get a pound of honey cured ham please?" Yes, I said please. I'm not recreating this to make me sound like a better person. She is clearly distressed by the whole ordeal, having to open the display, grab out the ham, stuff that is physically taxing. Then she says, "Do you want it cut 1 or 2? I had never been asked that before, so I thought she asked if I wanted 1 pound or 2. So I replied, "Just 1 pound's fine. Number. Do you want it cut 1 or 2? She literally yelled the question at me. It took me a second to realize that meant the thickness of the slices of ham, but I had no idea which one was thinner. I'm still trying to be nice, but I'm slowly losing it. I just ask which one's thinner. She doesn't even reply. She just goes back, starts crap talking me to her other co-worker, who seemed way nicer but probably heard a bull's version of the story. The lady comes back with the ham, slams it on the scale, and puts it in the bag and sends me on my way. The thing that made me think what the frick is wrong with people wasn't the frustration or the yelling at me. It was the fact that she expected me to know what 1 and 2 meant for the fricking slicing machine. I mean seriously, who the frick expects people to know the exact specifications of their sliced meat? I was driving down a road and this guy was coming towards me on the right hand side at an upcoming intersection. The road he was coming from was a small road leading from a store. I was on the major road. He had a stop sign. I didn't. He blows through the stop sign, turning right in front of me without even so much as looking either direction to see if the road was clear or signaling, but I guess that's to be assumed at this point. I had to slam on my brakes and would have hit him, but I laid on the horn. He saw me, put his foot on the gas and the collision was very narrowly avoided. If you're gonna blow a stop sign, at least look to see if other vehicles are coming. My 14-year-old daughter, who lives most of the time with her mother, my ex, and stepfather, recently invited me to go to an anime Japanese culture convention with her. Even wanted me to wear my ninja gear for done cosplay. She was super excited about it, and since it's happening on a weekend when she's with me, I said heck yeah, I'll go with you. Unfortunately, I have to involve the ex and stepfather in the process. As soon as I start trying to plan the logistics with them, I get a call from my daughter, using my ex's phone, and she now tells me she didn't really want me to come after all. I strongly suspect she got in trouble for inviting me and her mom forced her to do that. I truly hate that woman. Recently bought a few chickens. The second day they were here, the usual neighbor kids come over to play. I sit down and feed the baby, and about 10 minutes in I have to get up because I hear kids screaming and chickens losing it. I walk out back to a dozen children I do not know, 4 of which have busted my hen run and are in with the chickens. One kid has a hen by her wing, she flaps, he lets go and then he kicks her. Needless to say, I was upset. Without leaving my porch I said, get out, all of you. I don't know what makes you think it is appropriate to hit someone else's animal. I don't know what would make you think it is okay to do that to any animal in general, but it is in no uncertain terms not okay. I don't know who you are, but get the frick off my property. I tell my kids and the neighbor kids they play with that no one is allowed in the backyard. I go back inside to feed the baby. I am not even sat down yet and I hear the fridge open. I say toddler's name. No snacks right now. Guess what? Not my toddler. Some neighbor kid I don't know just walks in and opens my fridge. Now he wasn't the crap that kicked my chicken, but he was in the run. I kick the kid out. As I open the door to escort fridge raider from my home, chicken kicker shows up with his mommy. You white bee think you are so much better than my son. How dare you tell him what to do? I am going to call the cops on your cracker, but I tell her. Comes back 15 minutes later, says she wants to settle this like adults and will consider $100 to cover mental anguish from my yelling at her son. I tell her to just call the cops and have them deal with it. I get called a white bee again and she leaves. TLDR. Kid kicks my chicken. I tell him to leave. His mom wants $100 for mental anguish from me yelling at him. I was verbally abused by a customer over the phone for something that isn't my job or department. I was the one answering the phone and could barely get a word in, and co-workers at a different store threw me under the bus by telling this customer after that this store is full of idiots and incompetent. I live in Oklahoma and was watching the news the other night and they caught some old bee tying her 7-year-old granddaughter up and beating, burning, and torturing her while dressing up like a witch. My mother is in a wheelchair now and I'll take her to the store or mall to get her out of the house. What pisses me off is, she's fully capable of moving herself, but people will push her out of the way unless I'm right behind her. It's happened a few times. What I notice is, when you have a disabled person in a wheelchair they suddenly become freaking invisible. I remember once I was pulling her wheelchair from my trunk and this other woman pulled into the spot next to me on my mom's side and go so close. She, nor my mother, could open the door all the way. I asked for her to move. She ignored me and I ended up having to park elsewhere. I loved the time the parents got pee at me asking that their children not play on her chair while she was using the bathroom. People all the time as I'm pushing her will suddenly stop without warning, and I've run my poor mother into people because of it and they look at us like we're the buttholes. I was on a flight last night and the woman in the row next to me changed her baby's diaper on the seat back tray without putting down a towel or anything. When she was done, she just closed the tray without even wiping it down and stuffed the dirty diaper into the pocket in the back of the seat. We were only like half an hour from landing, too. I was doing work at a Starbucks, minding my own business. Despite the fact that I have headphones in and am ignoring him, this guy takes a seat across from me at this 2-person table. He starts hitting on me and yelling so I can hear him over my music. My sweater is open and as I shift to look away from him, the port in my chest, at the time I was on chemo, becomes visible. He sees it and starts telling me that I'm a hideous monster. I shouldn't be allowed in public, and calls the attention of the barista asking him to kick me out for his personal safety. Yep. A nearby high school football team seniors were hazing the freshmen by turning all of the lights off in the locker room, picking a random freshman, holding them down and making them shove their own fingers up their butt and then in their mouth. All of the participants were just arrested. In bathroom with awkward coworker. Only one stall open and I take it, leaving my coworker to wait. My coworker then begins to knock on the stall next to mine to make sure there is someone inside, even though it is obviously occupied. Can see feet. I can't understand how this coworker has gotten through life so far. Coworker waits 10 seconds and begins knocking on occupied stall door even harder. Person inside is obviously spooked and asks who is knocking on the stall. I am in here. Coworker responds, oh sorry, pretending to be too dumb to realize what was going on. Man, what the heck? When my extremely butt-backwards redneck family got together and everyone was sitting around talking about how every black person hates white people, and when I mentioned my best friend was black, my uncle got in my face yelling at me about how she wants to see me in chains and hanging from a tree. My redneck family was racist until my cousin had a kid with a black guy. Now they're all reformed racists and it's somehow still really weird. My supervisor at work is insane. Recently she pooped her pants and called her mom to bring her new clothes so she could change and finish work. She's 55. She would not have gotten in trouble if she had just gone home, and her mom lives more than an hour away. My supervisor sat in crap-filled pants for over an hour waiting for her mother to bring her new clothes. My ex cheated on me and then posted a rant on Facebook about how men are so terrible because they won't satisfy their sexual urges. She was cheating with me since the first day we started dating apparently, as in the day of our first date, she went on her first date with the other guy. Someone threw eggs at my little brother's brand new car while it was parked in our driveway. $900 worth of damage. The thing is, we can't figure out who might have done it because this isn't the kind of kid that would have enemies. He's probably one of the most good-hearted and nicest person I know. Teenagers are cruel. Saw a 21-year-old dude aggressively hitting on a 16-year-old girl who was pregnant from rape, and she was scared of the guy hitting on her. He wouldn't stop and got angry when my friend and I intervened to help calm the girl down. I wanted to break so many things. About 3 months ago, I made a move from San Francisco, California, to Baton Rouge, Louisiana. Although the two cities aren't as dissimilar as I had initially expected, they have definitely been some moments of culture shock. For one thing, there's a Walmart on every corner out here. I was quite accustomed to seeing a Starbucks every time that I turned around, but Walmarts are few and far between in the Bay Area. Since my arrival in Louisiana, I've discovered that the convenience of shopping at a Walmart doesn't manifest as a result of their product selection or prices, but rather because you'll probably wind up walking into one by accident if you don't watch where you're going. On one such occasion, although, I confess, I may have gone inside on purpose, I decided that I wanted to stave off the southern heat with some ice cream. Immediately upon entering the frozen foods aisle, I was stopped dead in my tracks at the sight of the most unbelievably obese woman I'd seen in recent memory. Watching her move was like witnessing an unruly mass of chocolate pudding in its struggle to escape from a bright pink sweatsuit. Also, as misfortune would have it, the woman in question was standing directly in front of the ice cream selection, apparently delighting in the cold air that was escaping from the door she had propped open with her enormous posterior. There was a brief moment where I considered feigning forgetfulness and making an abrupt about face, but my desire for ice cream was compelling enough to keep me there in the aisle. I waited patiently for the woman to make her selection and move away, but sadly, that opportunity never came. She stayed planted there, looking for all the world like she was caressing each carton in the plexiglass cupboard. Eventually, I decided to take a more active role in my pursuit of dessert. "Excuse me," I said, "may I grab something from there?" No response was forthcoming. The woman stayed fixated on the freezer, her hand, which I saw was festooned with remarkably gaudy fake nails, resting lightly on a quart of cookie dough ice cream. "Excuse me," I said again, a bit louder this time. At last, the woman started to move, but it wasn't to make room for me. Instead, I watched in horror as she pulled a carton from the freezer, opened it, pausing briefly to cram the plastic freshness seal into her pocket, and then licked the contents. Only then did the woman speak. "No," she said, more to herself than to anyone else. She replaced the lid on the carton, put it back into the freezer, then selected another. Once again, I looked on as she opened the ice cream, dragged her tongue across its surface, pondered for a moment, then closed the carton and returned it to where some unwitting future shopper might stumble upon it. I did not get ice cream that day, nor any day since, come to think of it. TLDR, a fat woman's tongue violated the very concept of dessert. You should have complained to an employee and had her kicked out. I don't have a particularly cogent example, but most of my what the frick is wrong with people moments occur either on public transport, in the grocery store or on campus. I'm a college senior plus, in my 5th year. I'm on my way to the checkout counter at the grocery store, carrying a huge load of groceries, all on my own, about to set them down. Lady cuts me in line and lays down her 3 items at the end of the counter. She proceeds to lean against the counter so I can't set my items down. At pay, she takes her fricking time looking for her Metro card so she can get points. Makes jokes to the cashier about how none of us are in a hurry. So what's the big deal if it takes a couple extra minutes? I finally can set down my stuff, and I attempt to help bag my own groceries since the bag girl seems to be in a bad mood. She grabs the bag out of my hand, scowls at me, and goes on loudly conversing with the cashier about how rude people are. On my way out, I wish her a good evening. She turns me, grunts and says yeah, okay, then rolls her eyes. WTF. That people feel the need to call women who don't want children an abomination to the female sex. I want children and I full respect the right of women who do not want to be a mother. I actually saw a guy here on Reddit say that women who don't have kids should have to pay some sort of extra tax because they aren't giving back to society or whatever. I will preface this by saying I am a decent driver. Not perfect, but I do try to be courteous to my fellow drivers. In the last month or so, I have been graced with the gift of many middle fingers, horn honkings, and even someone who followed me for 3 miles honking their horn and riding my bumper, could not see their headlights. She got out of her car when I did at the market and reamed me out for going too slow. My eye involuntarily twitched at her stupidity and I reminded her that, if she had paid attention to her speed, she would have seen she was, like me, going 70 in a 55 with the flow of traffic. Sigh. Welcome to Northern Virginia. I was riding the city bus once when a man began having a violent seizure. The bus driver promptly pulled over and phoned for an ambulance. When the EMTs arrived, they were both too wide to even board the bus, let alone carry a man off. They had parked the ambulance no more than 10 feet from the bus, and by the time they had walked that far and realized they wouldn't fit, they were already breathless trying to ask people on the bus to get him off so they could take him to the hospital. These are the people we expect to save our lives. If you are new to the channel, you can subscribe. I publish new videos every day. Until then, check another video. Bye for now.